Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm Macy Renee, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you're a brand new listener, welcome. Excited to have you. And if you're a returning listener, as always, thank you so much for your support. All right, you guys, I'm excited to talk to you. I've missed you guys. We skipped last week. I was still in Kentucky, and to be quite honest, I was very overwhelmed. It was a short trip. I flew in to attend my very first life coach's baby shower. She is due with a little baby boy in May. And it was kind of a last minute decision, but I wanted to be there. I love milestones. I love celebrating people. So when the opportunity allows, I like to be able to celebrate and make those memories. And also any trip home means that I get to squeeze my niece, my little brand new fresh niece. So that was really fun. But also it was stressful because I still had a ton of work to do. And you guys know, if you've been listening for a while, that when I stay with my grandparents, I have no internet. They own almost 20 acres of land, and they're older in age anyway, so they can get away with just like satellite TV. But for me, that really relies on Wi-Fi and strong connection to work with clients. It just doesn't work whenever I stay with them at the farm. But then I'm trying to stay with them at the farm because they feel sad if I come in and I don't stay with them. They're who raised me. So I try to split my time between spending a few days with them and catching up. And then you're just pulled in a bunch of different directions. And I think if you have moved away from home ever, whether it's like an hour away or a state away or across the country, you know that when you come back, and this is such a beautiful thing, right? Like people love you and they want to spend time with you. So I'm not complaining. Thank God there are people in my life that want to be around me. I'm so appreciative of it. But my trip was less than 2 weeks and I literally felt like a little ping pong ball. My phone did not stop of, hey, I want to see you, make sure that I get to see you, and doing my best to try to work full time, which never stopped because it wasn't a vacation for me. See everybody who was requesting to see me as much as I could while being stranded without a car. And because my grandparents don't have internet, I stay with a really close friend of mine and her family because they do have the capacity for me to continue to work. So I felt like a ping pong ball. And like, here's the thing about me anyways, and this was when I even lived an hour away from family and friends. I have the capacity energetically for a few interactions before I'm completely exhausted. My best friend actually, like, she knows me so well. We used to travel together for conferences. And by day 2 of a conference surrounded by tons of people, I would be so energetically drained that my eyes would glaze over. And she, at first, when we traveled together, would think that I was mad at her because I just go into like almost survival mode, like not talking, glazed over eyes, just totally overstimulated. And once she learned me and learned like, oh, it's not me, she's not mad at me, she just literally can't handle this amount of people and being like a yo-yo. Like she needs time. We joke and she would be like, she needs to eat healthy like broccoli and go lay in a hot tub in a bubble bath. And truly we joke about it, but that is how I am. So when we lived even an hour away from family and friends, I had the capacity to like maybe have a weekend hangout, and then I needed like 5 days to recover because for some reason it would just take so much energy. So when I'm home, even for maybe like 10 days, which I think this last trip was just about 10 days or so, I was doing something every single day between working, stressing about making sure I had internet, trying to please everyone, getting sassy text messages from some people that were irritated that I wasn't able to see them, which I'm sorry if I didn't get to see you, but seriously, like it was actually very stressful for me. Like by the time I came home, I was a little bit like, okay, nobody needs anything from me except for what I've got going on in business. I just need to like chill. So those are, I think, the hard parts about going home is that unless I had like a month home, I wouldn't get to see everybody. I wouldn't get to spend time with everybody. And then, there's the guilt of like wishing that I had more time to see some people, but then also like taking care of myself energetically, boundary wise. Like I just don't have the capacity to do that without completely exhausting myself, even though I love all those people. So that was kind of my challenge. I got home and I vegged on the day that I could veg out. I just like vegged out and now I'm back at it. So there's that. Anyways, we are going to talk about when you want to fix people. Okay. I think that this comes up a lot for a lot of people. It's that we think we need to fix people. And we're going to talk about where this comes from and why this happens, and also whenever people want to fix you. So I hope that you're ready. I do want to remind you that if you are an Apple listener, if you could leave a review, if you love the podcast, and just keep sharing it with friends. Tag me in your social media. I love hearing about it. Okay. So when you want to fix people, let's talk about why we even want to fix people. And what does fixing people even mean? Okay. This absolutely revolves around someone's emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence encompasses everything. It really does. That's why I created the Equip Society, because it's important to learn these skills. So when we want to fix people, it is because something that they're doing or whoever they are being is making us feel negative emotions that we don't know how to move through within ourselves. So we believe that the easiest way to feel better is to fix or change other people. And what we do is we turn outwardly. So we basically turn outside of ourselves and we look at what we believe the problem is. And usually the problem is another person or another thing, and it feels very outside of our control. And because we're not able to identify our own emotions or be willing to feel the emotions that we feel from this person or this thing, we try to take that control that we want so badly and manipulate the situation to make someone else be different. But what has happened whenever you've tried to change other people? Usually it ends in a dead end because other people only change if they want to, okay? And if they are changing, I want you to hear me. If you feel like you're able to get people to change or that people are changing you, I want you to recognize if that is coming from being manipulated or manipulating other people. Now you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm not manipulating anybody. But do you punish someone for being who they are? Do you give the silent treatment whenever someone's not behaving the way that you would like them to behave? Like, what are your actions whenever you feel a negative emotion caused by, quote, quote, you think it's caused by this other person? So for instance, if someone pisses you off and they make you really, really mad and you decide that in order to teach them a lesson, you're going to give them the silent treatment, so that way they know not to ever do that again. You're manipulating, right, the situation. You're trying to fix them. You don't want them to do that again. So instead of communicating like, hey, this just really made me upset. I don't really like this. I'm not here for it. Or this is a boundary of mine. This is not going to work for me. Like, we've got to figure out how to overcome this. Like that's a way of handling someone's behavior, right? Or if you're feeling a negative emotion from someone, being able to communicate about it. The other option is to be able to understand why you are frustrated or feeling an emotional reaction from their behavior to begin with. But what a lot of people do is they try to control someone else's behavior. So they'll say things like, you are the reason that I'm blah, blah, blah. You're the reason I'm miserable. You're the reason I can't trust anyone. You're the reason, insert the reason. And so you start to project all of the emotions you're unwilling to feel on this other person. And you subconsciously start to try to manipulate their behavior and change it and fix them so that you don't have to feel disappointed. You don't have to feel distrust. You don't have to feel sadness. You don't have to feel anger. So you think in your brain, if I can just change this person or change their behavior or fix them, then I will feel better. So let's talk about what drives us to do this. One, what drives us to do it is the unwillingness to feel it, which is our ego. Our ego never wants us to feel a negative emotion. It does not like that. Your brain is protective. It wants to protect you. So it doesn't think that it's doing anything wrong. It doesn't feel like it's a problem. When you're trying to fix other people, it's like, of course I'm trying to fix them. They're doing it wrong. They're living wrong. Their life is wrong. But remember, what we perceive as wrong is only because of the manuals that we have. So I've done some podcast episodes on this about how we have a manual. And this manual is the invisible book in our head, or this invisible rule book, this manual that lives inside of our brain for how we think people should live, talk, behave, act, feel, all of the things. It's like if you go to tell someone something really exciting and then they're not excited, and you completely shame them for not being excited. Like instead of accepting their human reaction of, maybe they have a thought, right? And they're maybe you thought they would be excited, but they're feeling afraid or they're feeling sad. And because you're not willing to feel that negative emotion within yourself of being let down because you thought you were going to get a different reaction, what your subconscious does is try to fix them, try to manipulate the situation. You're like, well, I thought that you were going to be really excited, or I thought you were going to be really happy for me. So you're not going to be happy for me? Like, this is the reason why I don't tell you things. This is the reason why I behave this way to you. Rather than taking full responsibility for the emotions you felt in the moment. So we become reactionary. We become very, very reactionary and very defensive. So when people are trying to fix you and they say, well, you need to be different than who you are, that's their ego. That's what they're saying is you need to be different because I can't handle my negative emotions that I feel when you're being who you are being. I have a manual that goes against who you are. So when you're being who you are, I'm uncomfortable. And in order for me to be comfortable, I need you to fix this. I need you to be different. I need you to show up differently than how you're showing up. I need you to communicate with me differently. I need all of these things. And what they're saying is I need for you to be who I think you should be to feel better. Because I'm not willing to feel my own negative emotion and work through my thoughts, and I'm not willing to do the work. I don't want to become more self-aware. It feels too hard. I need you to fix you. So that way my life goes as smoothly as possible. That's what's happening whenever other people are trying to fix you. Okay? Same thing whenever you're trying to fix other people. So I'll tell you kind of how this has shown up in my life. For instance, like, my husband and I, we're very success driven because we have goals that we want to hit. Like we want to be able to do a lot of big things in our life, like give thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to charities and be able to, like, I would love to go on mission trips, just like spend a lot of my time doing that. There's so many things that we want to do. And so we think on a different scale than some of the people in our life. And what we find is that there's sometimes a lot of pushback whenever we're sharing goals that we have personally. There's pushback on like, well, you shouldn't think like that, or you shouldn't be that way. Or, you know, like the comment most often is like, money isn't everything. It's like, even if we're talking about goals and not about money at all, if we just say the word goals, success, immediately there are people in our lives that will tie it to money, and they'll be like, well, money isn't everything. It immediately triggered. And so what they will do, and now we're aware of this, is that they try to manipulate and like feel better about themselves. Like they're having thoughts about themselves in that moment about maybe what they wish that they were doing, or what they're uncomfortable with what they're not doing, but they don't really care to change it. Or if they do want to change it, they don't know how. And so the easiest way is to try to fix our thinking, you know, fix us. Like maybe if we can fix them and bring them back to the ground, like they're floating in an imaginary world. They're living in la la land. They don't understand reality. Okay. And so they will try to change our thoughts, change the way that we're thinking to make themselves feel better. Now, I used to do this too. I mean, I was guilty of it too. I would always blame my feelings on other people. I had tons of stories about other people. I would be like, well, the reason that my life is miserable is because of this person, or because of what they've said, or because of what they've done. And I see this all the time. I would see this all the time when I was an occupational therapist, of how young this starts. It would be the child that was upset in daycare, right? Crying because someone took their ball, or, like came over to them and poked them or whatever. And the child would start crying, and then the teacher would come over, or I would come over. This was early on in my OT practice before any coaching. And I would come over, and the immediate response that we just word vomit is like, oh, give that ball back, you hurt their feelings. Or don't do that, you hurt their feelings. And this is how it becomes so easily ingrained to want to fix other people for our feelings. Like this is truly where it begins. I think I actually read this in a book too, a psychology book years ago, of how the ego is so protective, right? That it will blame other people for how we're feeling, because then it's someone else's responsibility and we don't have to look at it. We don't have to become self-aware. And so, not only are people doing this to us a lot of times, but we're also doing it to other people. And so the awareness work here is to ask yourself, like, when are you trying to manipulate a situation or a behavior in order for yourself to feel better? And actually, I'm getting ready to do a free masterclass. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the end, about the equipped parent, right? Just a little free mini series that's going to actually continue on inside the Equipped Society. But the first 2 days will be a freebie for you to come join. And it's going to be bringing that awareness around how our inability to feel our own emotions, or our lack of awareness around our own emotions, impacts the way that we show up, and even the way that we interact around children, whether you are a parent or want to be a parent, because I'm going to really show you how this has impacted you and who you've become as a result of like just societal conditioning. Okay. So I'm really excited about that. But we become so uncomfortable a lot of times by the way that other people act or speak or behave, that we think the only way it's going to get better is if we fix them. And it's interesting too, because if we don't have the capacity to feel our own emotions, when someone is feeling their emotions around us, our initial response is to try to fix it. So think of like whenever your best friend or your family member is really, really sad, or they're grieving, or something has happened, like they've had a breakup, or it doesn't really matter. Like they're upset. A lot of times what we do, even as like girlfriends, right? Talking about girls specifically in this situation, is we're like, girl, don't cry. it's okay. Don't cry over him or don't cry over her or whatever. Like, we're like, don't do that. Like, they're lame anyways. And we try to make them feel better immediately. Like, we don't even provide space for people to fully feel what they're feeling. It's like we immediately come in and our ego becomes so uncomfortable, especially if we don't feel our own emotions, if we don't process our own emotions. We come in and we immediately try to fix other people and make them feel different than what they're feeling because we're uncomfortable. It's like we're used to seeing our friends and family happy and excited and joyful. And if they experience a tragedy or a loss or just something that feels very painful to them, either we don't know what to do and we kind of distance ourselves, or we try to be there, but we're like stumbling over, like, I don't know what the right things to say. I don't know what to do. I feel horrible. I just want to make them feel better. I want to make them feel better. And what you don't realize in that moment is that they also deserve the space to process and feel and live out their full emotional experience. They don't need to feel better. So I've had a lot of clients that have gone through really hard things. They've gone through breakups. They've gone through the death of loved ones. They have experienced tragic losses. They've gone through horrible relationship endings or navigating painful things in their relationship or parenting struggles or, loss of a best friend, whether it's physically or just like mentally and emotionally. Like, I walk with clients through some of their most challenging times, and what is so vital for their healing process is not me trying to fix them, letting them be exactly where they are for as long as they want to stay there. And when they're ready to move through it, I will coach them through it. But when it's initial and when it's fresh, I often tell them, you don't need your brain to be coached right now. You don't need to feel better. I'm not going to try to fix you to help you feel better. Whenever they come to me and they're like, I just want to feel better. Like, sometimes you need to sit with the emotion and not be fixed. And as much as my initial reaction is to want to fix them, right? I'm maybe used to seeing them happy. I'm used to joking with them on their calls. I'm used to, just a whole different kind of experience whenever they've gone through something hard and they're sad or they're really, really angry or they're grieving. Of course, my natural response is to want to fix it. I want to fix it for them. I don't want to see them sad. I hate it. It's natural. That's right. Like, I want to fix it. But I know for their greater good that it's important that I don't try to fix it, that I let them process it. And when they come to me and they're immediately trying to bypass it, like I'm drinking, I'm, smoking, I'm over shopping, I'm over exercising, I'm buffering, I'm watching too much TV, I'm staying on my social media, that's when I come in and tell them it's very important for them to allow their emotions to be present, to allow themselves to feel it. Even if they come to me and they're like, I'm really, really mad at my husband. I'm really, really mad at my best friend. I'm really, really mad at this particular person, at my boss, at my coworker. And I want them to change because they're making my experience miserable. They're making my life miserable. In that moment, there's two things I do. One, let them feel the emotion that they're feeling. And then two, coach the crap out of them that the reason that they're feeling prolonged misery and discomfort is because they're relying on someone else to change to feel better. So there are a few ways that this comes into play, right? It's like other people want to fix us so that they feel better. We want to fix other people so that we feel better. And it becomes this cycle of other people are responsible for how I feel. But that's not the truth. Your thoughts are responsible for how you feel. That is what is real. Your thoughts create feelings. Now, feelings can happen whenever you walk into an environment or, it's like feelings can be independent of. But the important thing is to figure out why, what triggered that feeling. Is it a sneaky subconscious thought? Is it a visceral response of walking into a room and it triggering a quick memory and then coming back into an array of emotions That can happen as well too. Like we can hold things somatically in our body and feel very triggered by something without any kind of awareness as to what is causing it. And that comes a lot of times from prolonged pushing things away, or just trying to have our nervous system being in survival mode. So anyways, fixing people. You don't need to fix people. People don't need to fix you. I don't need to fix my clients. Like anytime that I think that I want to fix my clients, I have to check in with myself and be like, well, what am I wanting to fix? Why am I wanting to fix it? If I'm wanting to fix it, it simply comes back to my ego being uncomfortable and not wanting to feel what I'm feeling. So keep that in mind whenever you start thinking, I need to fix this person. I need to fix my mom. I need to fix my mother-in-law. I need to fix my father-in-law. I need to fix my sister. I need to fix my boyfriend. I need to fix my husband. I need to fix my wife. I need to fix this person. They're driving me crazy. They just don't know like how to live properly. They're not abiding by my manual. They're really annoying. And so then you're like, I'm just going to fix them and then I'll feel better. But then whenever you can't fix them, you don't feel better because they have to choose what's working for them in their life and what's not. Like they maybe don't want to change. Maybe they want to be exactly who they are. And again, if you are able to, get them to change something, you really need to get clean on where you're doing that from. Like, are you all having very high quality, emotionally intelligent discussions about this is not working for me, this is a boundary, and then they're changing it because of that? Or are they afraid? Like, are they afraid you're going to leave? Are you afraid of leaving, right? Other people can do this. Like, let's say someone's doing this to you, right? It would be like narcissistic behavior, like completely berating you, beating you down, making you feel like you're not enough, making you, think like you're doing something wrong all the time and question yourself all the time. And so then you're trying to fix yourself from this place of like, well, I want to be loved by them. I don't want to feel like I'm doing something wrong. I don't want to feel less than. So I guess in order for them to like love and approve of me, I need to be this person. It's the same thing that happens to teenagers in school, right? Like with the bullies and the popular kids. It's like, oh, in order to really fit in and be fully appreciated and not be made fun of and be a part of the pack, I need to be different. They're telling me I need to be different. I need to dress different. I need to behave different. I need to be into the things that they're into. And so teenagers full of, in their ego, totally unaware, will try to change and manipulate other people through bullying tactics, through manipulation, through isolation, through really ugly, nasty behavior, right? And usually as parents, we're like, hey, you don't need to hang out with them. But for that teenager, they're like, yes, I do. Or I'm not going to be cool. I'm not going to be popular. And again, what's happening to those teenagers is they don't have awareness around their emotions. They don't have awareness around their thought process. They feel like it's dependent on someone else, again, which starts at very young age. If you watch little babies interact with each other who take each other's blocks or something away, typically what we do as adults is we come in and we say, oh, no, don't take that. You hurt their feelings, or give that back. You hurt their feelings, or you're making them cry. You're doing all of these things that is making this other child upset because we don't know any better. We don't really know how. That's like unexperienced territory. That's not the word that I'm looking for, the phrase that I'm looking for, but it's like territory that a lot of us haven't been in because we've just repeated cycles, years and years and years of what we know and what our parents knew and what we were taught, and it becomes super ingrained in us. So there's today's podcast episode, but here's what I want to tell you. I am doing a 2-day free masterclass inside a private Facebook group called The Equipped Parent. And it's going to teach you a little bit about the foundation of emotional intelligence and kind of how you are made up of who you are up to this point, and how awareness in your emotions is really important, and how it will impact even the way that maybe you're raising your kids or the behavior you're seeing in your kids. And it's just going to bring more awareness to you overall. So you don't have to be a parent to be in there. You can maybe want to have kids one day, or you could be, someone that just hangs around kids, or, it's like maybe you have nieces and nephews, or maybe you just want to become more aware of why you even show up the way that you show up and how things are correlated. And it's just going to make you more aware, but it's really targeted towards things that parents are going through. I coach a lot of moms. And lately, my work has also been attracting a lot of younger people as well. I've been getting a lot of reach outs for young, preteens, teenagers, and even like young adults. And so I think that obviously, people want the knowledge of their emotions. People want to become more self-aware human beings, because when you become more self-aware, you can actually change things in your life. And so I think that my work does appeal to a very large age group. And so with that being said, I wanted to be able to teach some of the things that I've noticed parents are going through, and they're bringing to me, some different things on the call, and even personal friends have been bringing things up with their kids. And so with these patterns that I keep seeing, I've thought, it probably would be really cool to go into depth and teach this kind of stuff. So I'm going to do a 2-day free masterclass, and then a series inside of my group program called the Equip Society. So it'll be a really great place. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. You can go ahead and request to be in that group. Just a heads up, it will not accept you until April 4th. So go ahead, use the link to get your spot, so that way you don't miss anything when it starts. But it's going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 4th. It's going to be a Facebook Live, which means once you're in there, you can, interact and engage and ask questions and all of the things I'm going to be teaching at my handy dandy whiteboard. And I'm just so excited to see you there. So join us, get the link in the show notes, and I'll see you there. All right. Have a great week, you guys.